All of you have done phenomenal work. I thank you all. Sarah, we'll start with you. You had mentioned it on the program last Thursday. Really? We had a spy from the FBI within the Trump campaign, separate and apart from March 7th, 2017. On this program, you and John Solomon breaking the story about FISA abuse.
Well, it appears that there was an intelligence source, somebody connected to the Trump campaign that had worked with the CIA and the FBI. And it also appears that the FBI had approached this source that was connected to the Trump campaign and asked for information on the Trump campaign. I think this is really important because one of the things that was brought up today, just recently, was the fact that Paul Ryan and others have been screaming mad about the fact that they kept this from Congress. They kept this information from oversight. And this is the reason why Chairman Nunes was so adamant on retrieving the information on this intelligence source. But one of the things, Sean, this source is considered highly classified. So if this person was offering information to the FBI on previous cases, had worked with the FBI closely, it would be very dangerous to release that name without the authority of the national security apparatus.
Look at the efforts, David Scholl. Let's talk about that story just from the legal point of view, which is your area of expertise. But I guess more importantly, all of the legal issues that I'm raising, FISA abuse, unmasking, surveillance, no minimization, all of this, and then, of course, covering up and rigging an investigation into Hillary, it would seem that there should be a lot of people in America afraid tonight in terms of their legal jeopardy.
Absolutely, and having no confidence in the special counsel in a so-called investigation. Look, Sarah Carter is on top of this story. If it turns out there was a confidential source placed in an electoral campaign during the course of the election, it will be bigger than Watergate. But you're right. These are all tied together.
FISA abuse is already bigger than Watergate. They lied not to one FISA judge, 4, so they can get a one. And Rod Rosenstein signed off on one of those subsequent renewal applications. They never verified, they never corroborated it, which is not only the law, it's FBI protocol. And then they never told these judges where this information came from. Hillary Clinton, phony Russian sources by a foreign agent. Sorry, I'm mad.
And the common link that you have tied together is the matter of omission. They have not been straight with the FISA court. They haven't been straight clearly now in the Manafort case. This is going to have to come out. If there's a confidential source, there's no reason any longer, if you want to go to trial with Mr. Manafort, and you're not permitted to keep that confidential any longer.
And by the way, the Russian bot case is dead. They're not going to give these. They never thought that these people would ever respond. Mueller will have to drop it, in my opinion. David, do you agree with that?
Well, they've exercised their speedy trial right, so it's either put up or shut up at this point. And we're hearing remarkable things, that the wrong company possibly was indicted. That's the way when you
can't make this up. Let me go to my friend Dan Bongino on the political side. I just talked about the president's accomplishments, including Israel, North Korea, Iran. It's having Democrats, and this is a bad position for Democrats to be in, that for them to get their little power back that they crave so desperately to impeach the president, that means the economy has to fail, but the economy is thriving. That means foreign policy would have to fail. What a horrible position to be in for them.
Yeah, well, Sean, the Democrats have never had an agenda to run on. I mean, what's your agenda? Give us your money, give us your health care, and give us your kids in a bunch of broken public schools? Sean, all they have is the Mueller case right now. The Mueller case is collapsing. The case has been deeply conflicted from the start. 2 of his prosecutors represented people in the Clinton orbit. One of them who was involved in the email scandal. We already know about Weissman. Yep. Yeah, Jeannie Rhee and Aaron Zebley. And also, Sean, one of the lawyers representing a source for Mueller, you're never going to believe this. In the case, one of the lawyers representing a Mueller source was Obama's White House counsel, Catherine Rumler.
You can't make it up. Last word, Sarah. We got to break. Sarah.
Well, I agree. And right now, Grassley, with the Senate Judiciary Committee is requesting all the documentation on Flynn. There's going to be a lot of developments in that, and they're asking for the actual tech cut records of the conversation between Flynn and Russian Ambassador Kislyak. It'll be interesting to see what
you guys have been
with.
Amazing. John Solomon's breaking report and breaking news. It's explosive. That's next. Reaction to our breaking news and our monologue, the columnist from The Hill that actually broke this story is John Solomon. Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz is with us in studio. John, I got to begin with you. Mueller may have a conflict that leads directly to Russia. I might surprise some of my audience here. As FBI director, the efforts that they were using to actually help save a former FBI and a CIA guy, and we haven't seen this guy in 11 years, I am not concerned about that one bit. I don't care. I think any effort to save an American, and Robert Mueller and the FBI, I'm all for it. I want to be very clear. The issue becomes the hypocrisy of this, because this is the same Russian oligarch that they're using in the Manafort case, and they never pointed it out. So that's a problem for me. Not the little laws that were cited. There might be a violation of law, but I'm kind of glad they tried hard to save this guy. That's my natural gut.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the real question is the whole Russia collusion case is, did someone ask a favor of Russia, right? Did Donald Trump collude and try to get a favor? Well, 6 or 7 years before collusion was a twinkle in the public's imagination, the FBI asked a favor of this same oligarch, the oligarch that's now a client and a witness against potentially Paul Manafort, and there's no disclosure. We in the public don't know. It doesn't appear that the courts know.
Well, let me ask you, did the FBI and Mueller ever tell Congress that they had asked this oligarch?
Great question. I talked to the Senate and House Intelligence Committee chairman.
By the way, they got the Russian oligarch to pay $25 million. Actually, part of me thinks it's genius. But then don't use the same guy against Manafort and don't mention that you know the guy.
Yeah, I think that's right. I talked to the Senate Intelligence, House Intelligence Committee chairman from that time, Bill Nelson of Florida, Mike Rogers of Michigan. They both said that we were never briefed, and they were surprised to learn that such an operation occurred without Congress being informed.
All right. I know people are talking about the legality of this, and there's a specific law, the Anti-Deficiency Act, which prohibits the government from accepting voluntary services. You know what? That to me is total BS. This is like the superfluous, idiotic bureaucracy. I want that American saved. I want us fighting to save that American. So I'm not faulting Mueller for that. I'm applauding him, actually, which surprises some people. It's the hypocrisy. And they didn't mention that this is the same oligarch in the Manafort case. They purposely kept his name out.
Well, and Sean, your show and the great reporting John has done has demonstrated that this is but one conflict of interest. The Mueller probe is an orgy of conflicts of interest, and any one of them taken independently could potentially be brushed aside, but viewed in their totality, it shows how corrupt and biased this investigation is. Also an important point on this oligarch, Deripaska. Senator Tom Cotton asked a question in February as to whether or not Deripaska was involved in the drafting of the dossier with Christopher Steele.
Was he?
And Christopher Wray would not answer that question in open session.
We're going to pull that tape.
So very, very important that this very oligarch could have had a role in telling lies about Donald Trump, and that we still don't know that as the American people.
All right, you do point out not only the hypocrisy, the double standard, what clearly seems to be, John, something they're trying to hide in this case. What other issues surround this that you discovered? Because you cite dozens of people here, or at least a dozen or 14 people in your article as sources that we've never known this before.
Yeah, listen, the people that first approached me were Robert Mueller's old comrades at the FBI who thought it was odd that they had asked this favor of Deripaska, and then he's missing from this case, even though there's a lot of evidence connecting it to him. I want to go back to something the congressman said. When you wake up tomorrow morning, I think you're going to know the answer to what Deripaska did with the FBI in relationship to the dossier. Stay tuned tomorrow morning. You're going to learn something very important about Deripaska and the dossier.
Did Deripaska have something to do with the dossier? Mr. Solomon, give us a preview, sir. Stop with the teasing. That's my job. I tease next segment. He didn't have anything to do with the dossier. It may be what he said about its allegations that'll be the news. You know anything about this?
Only that Senator Cotton seems to be on the trail, and that we didn't get answers in open hearings. That certainly raises a lot of questions.
By the way, people, John, have been asking where you've been on the show. You've had a lot going on. You weren't feeling well. Welcome back. We're glad to have you back.
Thanks. Glad to be on.
Congressman, good to see you.
Yes.